So welcome back to some more Grand Theft Auto Liberty City stories. In this part, we will be completing the Avenging Angels activity, which is a requirement to complete on each of the 3 islands across Liberty City in order to get your percentage points for 100%. And we will begin here in Portland and then move on to Staten Island and then finish in Shoreside Vale. And we'll make sure to wear prophylactic as we do such things. Wouldn't want one of those happy accidents on our hands. But anyways, the way that this activity works is that you first need to switch into your Avenging Angels outfit, and you'll unlock the outfit after completing the mission Frighteners for Salvatore Leone, and that's fairly early on in the game, but I prefer holding off an activity like this since we're required to do it on all 3 islands anyways, so I prefer just waiting for that last island to unlock for us, so that way we can just knock it out all at once on each of the islands instead of doing it at separate times in our adventure of completing this game 100%. So that's my logic there. But you can switch into the outfit at any one of your 3 safe houses, and I chose to do it at the Portland safe house since we're beginning our adventure here in Portland, so again, more logic for you, or reasoning is a better word, because everybody has their own preference, and really one way isn't more logical than the other. I mean, you could just do it whenever you want, but either way, once you switch into your outfit, you then need to find an Avenging Angels pedestrian on the streets of Liberty City. And I found my fella here in Portland, on that strip of road that connects Chinatown to St. Mark's, and also to the Red Light District if you were to go a bit further up north. So that place is pretty consistent for getting these Avenging Angels pedestrians to spawn in, and they're going to be dressed up just like how Tony is dressed up right now. And you know, speaking of that street where we found that Avenging Angels fella at, I was reminded of something I used to do as a kid when I would play Grand Theft Auto 3, because back then I wouldn't really do main storyline missions, I would just kind of mess around and free roam, and one of the things I used to do is I would stand in that street, because that street is like the border between Mafia territory and Triad territory, so you can position yourself in a way to kind of manipulate the spawns of the pedestrians a little bit to make it to where the Triad gang members would spawn on their side of the street, and the Mafia gang members would spawn on their side of the street. So if you have both of these 2 entities spawning in at once, they'll get into a bit of a ruckus with one another and start engaging in battle and shooting each other and all that. And, you know, of course, some of the Triads had baseball bats too, so it would always be funny seeing them try to run up to the Mafia gang members to hit them with their baseball bats, but it usually wouldn't work out too well for them. But either way, you'd have these shootouts go off, and the AI aren't the best shooters in the world, especially with those pistols, so you'd often have just stray bullets flying all around the place, and like passing by cars would get hit by these bullets, and then they would just go insane and start just trying to get the hell out of the area, so they'd be driving on the sidewalks and stuff, and sometimes they'd even hit those gang members that were shooting those bullets, and also the, I guess, standard civilians running around the place screaming their heads off trying to get out of the area, so it was just this giant mesh of mayhem going off, and it was a lot of fun just to watch it all unfold, or even join the fray, you know. Sometimes you want to help out those Mafia gang members, then you step in and show them who's boss, show them how it's done, and getting rid of the other gang and all that. But even if you didn't know, it was just fun seeing the aftermath, and you'd have all the dead bodies on the ground, and then you'd walk over them and pick up the cash that they drop, or the pistol ammo that they drop, so you know, you make out quite nicely after a situation like that plays out, so you know, it's a fun time. And speaking of a fun time, I find this activity to be a fun time. For the most part, there are some situations where things kind of get a bit questionable, but even then, it's not too bad, and I'll go over that once we get to that point, which is actually coming up here soon, because we're almost done with Portland now, because you only have to complete 15 levels on each island. And the way that the levels work is that you only have to kill 1 group of enemies. And when you first start out, you know, in the early levels, these groups won't have that many criminals within them, but as you progress to, say, level 15, for example, the group is a bit expansive. So in a situation where you're chasing them down as they drive away on freeways, it can be a little annoying if 1 or 2 evade your shots as you try performing a drive-by on them, but overall, I don't find it to be that bad. And the reason why that guy was freaking out back there is because that was the result of a glitch that occurred when I tried doing this activity on Staten Island the first time around. And the glitch is that one of the criminals I was going after in the subway just happened to spawn in an inaccessible area. So he was behind the wall down there somewhere, and sometimes that can happen where the criminals spawn behind walls, or in the wall itself, or inside of buildings that you can't access the interior to. So whenever that happens, you can try using a rocket launcher or a grenade to have it to where the blast radius of the explosion from those things hits the person behind the wall. And I tried doing that, but it didn't work, so it doesn't always work, but it's something that you might consider doing if you have access to those weapons, and if you don't, then you can just restart. I mean, that's what I had to end up doing, and it's not a big deal because I got to level 6, and that's not too far into the process of completing this. And also, we got a funny sight to see there, and, you know, speaking of funny sights, we also had something like that there, where that guy just wants to go for a swim, so I guess that's something you also got to watch out for, besides the potential glitches of these enemies spawning behind places you can't get to. So, and in an instance where your guy dies on you for whatever reason, like in the case of that guy, he just went overboard there by the bridge, what you have to do from that point is find another Avenging Angels Pedestrian on the streets, and then recruit them, and then you can then proceed with the next level from that point. Because they're basically the ones who tell you where the next group of criminals are located, so they're necessary to complete the activity. Although, I suppose on the more physical side of things, they're not as helpful because, well, they're unarmed, and even though we have a gun and we're just destroying these waves of criminals, it's like if we were unarmed too, then we would probably get our asses kicked by these guys with cleavers and hammers and all that. So, yeah, you can imagine that guy back there in the subway, even though he was trying to make an effort, although he was broken, but still trying to make the effort of getting the criminals, he wouldn't have done much anyways. He wouldn't have been much help in that regard, so I don't know. I mean, I guess these guys are our GPS in a way, so I'm not going to put them down too much, but I will say that I do like a lot of their reasoning as to why we're going after some of these criminals, because there are times where they'll say, like, these criminals are parking illegally or something like that, and it's just really silly. Like, that actually managed to make me kind of smirk, even until the end in Shoreside Vale, so it's nice to have a little comedic aspect to what we're doing here. You know, it's not all serious and all that, like how the Vigilante mission would be, which, you know, that's a bit more difficult, the Vigilante is, because those enemies actually have weapons and stuff that are not melee weapons, so yeah, and I guess this is kind of like taste testing the Vigilante mission, because this pretty much plays out how that will play out. And I love this here, how sometimes they can just defy gravity there by doing flips and stuff like that, and not actually falling off of their bikes. So, good stuff. I mean, that's just one of those 3D era Grand Theft Auto things where you're gonna have funny moments like that no matter what you're doing. So, yeah, good stuff. And, you know, something I should point out here, which is kind of embarrassing that I let it happen to me, and that's that after completing the 15 levels on each island, you get a bonus reward along with the percentage points. And Portland's bonus reward is that an Avenger bike will spawn in front of the Portland safe house, but it's one of those spawns where if you save your game and turn it off, it'll despawn. So it's like right when you unlock its spawn point, you need to haul ass over there before you save your game and turn it off and put that vehicle into a garage. And unfortunately, I didn't do that. I completely forgot about that reward, even though it pops up on screen, but I neglected to read the little pop-up that plays when you complete the activity on an island, and in that case, Portland. So, yeah, you know, it's a bit unfortunate, but at the same time, I'm not too down on myself for forgetting about it, because it does come with the perk of also being bulletproof and fireproof, which you might be thinking, oh man, that's awesome stuff right there, but I just would feel cheap using it because I am recording myself playing this game for a series, and I don't like using things like that. And if it were just the amped up freeway and nothing else as a bonus, kind of like how the Manchez is just an amped up Sanchez, then yeah, I would be more inclined to use it, but it's like the bulletproof and fireproof part, it kind of put me off to it. But that's just me though. But anyways, your bonus reward for completing the activity on Staten Island And I love that so much, how these bikers just tried defying gravity like that. Although if Tony were to try doing something like that, he would just instantly fly off and get severely injured and all that. So I'm a little bitter about that, probably more than not showing off the Avenger, but either way, your bonus reward for completing this on Staten Island is that you no longer lose money when you're busted, so that's kind of cool if you're somebody who gets busted, but I will say that I think that little sequence right there is much cooler than that reward, because that's awesome. You just pull out the katana and slice that guy's head off, and then shoot the other guy in the head, which, I've noticed from doing this side activity that it's really easy to get that to happen, to make other people's heads explode, I guess, by just performing drive-bys. I mean, you got 2 more right there. And, I don't know, it's just kind of cool, I guess, just seeing that happen there, heads popping off. None there, unfortunately. But, going back to the whole busted thing, I mean, I suppose whenever I'm busted or wasted in these games, I just reload my save, which I guess bit me in the ass this time around because, I missed out on a one-time only spawn of a really awesome vehicle, but I can't keep harping on it. So what I do want to talk about is the criminals that spawn down here in the subway. And normally I'm a fan of how they spawn. Like, it's funny seeing them all kind of crowd around a burning vehicle, like they really accomplished something or whatever, or they're just hanging around in a dirty alleyway somewhere. I mean, it's just a funny scene to see. But I get a little discouraged whenever I see that they're in the subway because I don't know what it is. It just really feels like you're going out of your way into this kind of hard to navigate area. And not like it's an impossible space or anything like that, it's just kind of annoying to me anyways. But anyways, your reward for completing this activity on Shoreside Vale is your percentage points as well as the hero garb. Speaking of funny sights to see, so I think that's not half bad, and I think that's a good note to end on here for this part. So yeah, and that completes this part. In the next part, we'll be doing Buckethead TV, so until then, I will see you next time.